The Road Accident Fund is facing a parliamentary inquiry after alleged allegations of governance and failures, irregular spending and questionable contracts totaling over R1 billion. Former CEO Collins Letsoalo's security expenses alone reportedly reached nearly 1.8 million annually, far above board approvals. Scopa is probing these issues at the fund struggles with accountability and reforms. For more on this, we're joined by Scopa Chairperson Songezo Zibi and RAF Communications Head McIntosh Polela. Songezo, good afternoon. Thank you so much. I want to start the conversation with you. Really do appreciate it. Give us an overview, in a sense, so far, and we know that it's an incomplete inquiry thus far, of some of the failures at the Road Accident Fund that are of grave concern to you and the committee.
This is an inquisitorial process, not an accusatorial process. So we are in the process of finding out some of the detail around what has been happening at the Road Accident Fund. In the first week of the committee's hearings, we had what you could call orientation from the Road Accident Fund itself about the claims process, from the Auditor General, from the Special Investigating Unit, and so on. And then this past week, we started looking into some specific issues, two in particular, and that is the security contract for the personal protection services of the former chief executive, as well as procurement in the media and marketing communications environment, where there are two contracts of 500 million rand each.
Yeah.
I think the observation so far, and I've got to be careful about how I word myself in this, what we've observed so far is that there appears to be a breakdown in controls, both in the systems at the Road Accident Fund in terms of the governance systems and adherence to, but also just normal ongoing controls and watching what actually happens with expenditure on contracts in general. But we are going to be seeing other witnesses in the next few weeks, and so it's important that we wait for all of them to come before we put these questions to the board and management.
Yeah. So you would have had the Auditor General appear before the committee on RAF before this. From the Auditor General's reports, which is about financial health, as well as from the allegations that you're hoping to get some clarity on, albeit it's an inquisition, how much are we talking about that you are worried may be, maybe eaten from the trough of the organization?
We can't make that specific determination yet. I'm sorry to say, and this is why the issues that we are delving into are vast. For an example, as regards to the media contracts, it's clear that further investigation needs to be done about the breakdown in controls, whether the Road Accident Fund was not overcharged for certain goods and services, and whether appropriate decisions were taken to contract with certain entities to begin with. So I'm loath to put an amount and say I think money was actually stolen. I think we need to wait to get more information so that we can reach an informed conclusion. Like I said in the beginning, when suppliers have got free rein to procure services on behalf of the Road Accident Fund, and that there does not appear to be a system of checking whether the Road Accident Fund is being charged fairly, you then have to worry about what the suppliers themselves are doing. Are they procuring from their own relatives and friends? Are the prices fair, and so on? And that's a process that then has to take place in future, because the committee does not have the time or the forensic capacity to do that on our own.
Yeah. Before I bring McIntosh into the conversation, let's talk about one particular procurement event that I think is emblematic of a great deal of the procurement culture within the organization, and that is the media contract that seemingly should have gone to GCIS but didn't. Give us context around that, and give us a sense around the role of the CEO in having turned down GCIS despite a feasibility study proving that GCIS was actually the most cost effective.
Look, that's one of the things we are going to have to question going forward, because the testimony we've received so far is that GCIS was the cheapest option in as far as booking advertising is concerned. And we need to be very specific here. Was the cheapest option. They were instructed to go out to market, and they're using a supplier that is still not as competitive as what GCIS would have been. Now, we need to ask further questions of the former chief executive, the chief financial officer. The chief financial officer was actually the chairperson of the bid adjudication committee. So that's a primary person who has to explain to us what happened in that meeting, how was that decision arrived at, and why was the previous information ignored. So that's why, like I keep saying, we kind of need to be careful about the conclusions we reach ahead of conclusive testimony around these issues. But that appears to have been an imprudent decision at this stage, not to go with GCIS.
Yeah. McIntosh, let's talk about sticking to the money. The Special Investigative Unit, the SIU, had discovered a secret bank account of the Road Accident Fund with millions in it, seemingly tied to individuals who are executives within the Road Accident Fund. What is the response of the fund to that?
Look, I saw that information in the media. I was preparing for Scopa, and we haven't had time to delve into that. And as I understand it, it was a bank account that contains around 50 million rand. And the allegation is that it was done to spirit the money to hide it away from sheriffs. Now, just to put into context, we've paid in the past couple of weeks up to around 17 point something billion, and in one day we released a statement that we paid a record amount of 694 million. So 50 million does not seem to make that much of a difference. In fact, it's a minuscule amount. But sitting here and now, I don't have much information on it. But just at a glance, 50 million is just a very, very small amount to be hiding away, because we pay lots and lots of monies to our claimants.
Yeah, let's then turn our attention to Scopa. It is a little bit, and I must note this, it is a little bit unusual for the head of communications or a spokesperson of a statutory body to appear before a parliamentary committee answering on operational and governance questions. That's usually led or left to the head of the organization or the HOD of that functionary or those in charge with the fiduciary duty of that organization. And you don't carry a fiduciary duty there just yet. But talk to me about some of the operational questions that you had to answer there, and particularly around the role that lawyers play in claims processes. You have problematized the role of lawyers in the process, given the legislative nature of the process. I would assume that you would hope that Scopa would make some recommendations to the National Assembly around, altering the legislative framework around claims processing. Give us a sense around why that's such a sensitive part of the inquiry.
Look, when I appeared before my Lord, Songezo Zibi, it was, for me, primarily for the 2 media contracts. But obviously, I was asked to give my opinion about what would best fix the Road Accident Fund. And I did, make my prayers to the Honourable Songezo Zibi, which was that we need to reduce the purview of the lawyers, make it not their exclusive function to be in charge of claims, so that we can process the claims quicker at the Road Accident Fund, so that the claimants can have the access to their monies quicker. Because you must understand that at the time when they've had a road accident, that's where they need the monies the most to be able to, number one, be rehabilitated, but number two, to be reintegrated into society as best as possible. And I'm hoping that Honourable Zibi will take my suggestions as regards to that. I'm not saying that the lawyers should be kicked out altogether, but I'm saying their role needs to be reduced, and other people need to, like brokers, need to be given an opportunity to be able to fast track the processing of claims, so that to the benefit of the claimants.
Yeah, and look, this question you might not have an answer to, McIntosh, and if you don't, that's okay. But I think it's important to know, to the extent that we can. Do you know if any lawyers, or how many lawyers have been disbarred for dubious, fraudulent, corrupt practices pertaining to the Road Accident Fund claimants and claims processes by the Legal Practice Council?
No, I don't. I mean, we've had discussions with the council, and we've had our fights about the time it takes to deal with these cases. As it stands, we've got hundreds of lawyers that we've taken to court because they've dipped into the monies of the claimants once we've paid these monies by way of hugely underpaying them. But those are the processes that we take to the courts. I don't have the numbers as it refers to the council, but I do emphasize this. We have, had arguments with them with the time it takes to investigate the lawyers and possibly kick them out or disbar them from practicing at all.
Songezo, do you want to speak to the Legal Practice Council?
Yes, no, we've spoken to the Legal Practice Council. They were in our committee, and they explained in detail the steps that they've taken and the reasons for some of the delays. The Road Accident Fund has also been very helpful by sending to us a spreadsheet with a list of law firms that are under investigation within the Road Accident Fund and the reason why they're under investigation. So in the next couple of weeks, we will have the Law Society. I think we're likely to have the Legal Practice Council again coming to appear before the committee. So we're looking at all aspects of where the Road Accident Fund may be leaking money. But we have been given a spreadsheet. It's just that there is a timetable to the work of the committee, and we're dealing with one issue at a time.
What are the political heads saying, Songezo? What's the Minister of Finance saying? What's the Minister of Transport saying about the malfeasance and mismanagement at the Road Accident Fund?
Look, the Minister and Deputy Minister of Transport have been incredibly supportive to the work of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and the interim board has similarly been supportive. I also have to say that McIntosh appeared not as spokesperson but as a manager and executive within the Road Accident Fund, in the context of the two contracts that were under discussion. And again, we've received no resistance from Road Accident Fund employees themselves, from the board and from the minister. They've all been supportive of our work, and they've appeared when we've asked them to appear.
What comes next in the work of the committee pertaining to the Road Accident Fund?
This coming week, we are going to hear from two witnesses who dealt particularly with financial matters in terms of the accounting policy, in terms of efforts to reduce the liabilities of the Road Accident Fund by way of a change in accounting policy and so on. They are former employees of the Road Accident Fund, but they were there at the time these things were initiated, so they're going to assist the committee with that information. We'll also hear from some of the suppliers of the Road Accident Fund who remain unpaid. Of particular concern for us as the committee is the length of time it takes to settle some of the creditors, as well as the interest that may accumulate in that time, which in terms of the standards of the Auditor General may amount to fruitless and wasteful expenditure.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. McIntosh, Polela, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Songezo, Zibi, thank you so much for your time here. Of course, we'll continue to keep our eye on the work of the committee pertaining to the Road Accident Fund.